So a few months ago, I made a video on how I probably foolishly spent $2,400 on an iPad Pro setup and tried to use it as my laptop for like 2-ish weeks. I failed. I made peace with it because the iPad is absolutely incredible when you stop trying to make it something that it's not. A lot of you watched that video, a lot of you agreed, and I meant every word of it. But something's been like nagging at me sort of since then. The iPad Pro has the same chip architecture as a MacBook, or really any of the Macs right now. It runs a windowing system that looks almost identical to macOS. Apple sells a $329 keyboard for it and used to run ads asking what's a computer, and they want you to believe this thing can replace your laptop. And they price it like it can replace your laptop. And then they deliberately make sure that it can't. And I don't think that's an accident. Apple's holding the iPad back on purpose, and it's costing you money. And the wild part, the strategy is working beautifully for them. Last quarter, Apple shipped just under 20 million iPads, more than Samsung, Lenovo, Huawei, Xiaomi, all the rest combined. iPad revenue hit $8.6 billion. And forget the identity crisis narrative. This product is still printing money exactly the way Apple designed it to. And the way Apple designed it is to make it just capable enough that you think it might replace your laptop, but is limited enough that you still probably buy a Mac. So think about what's missing on this. And Xcode was the first one that kind of jumped out at me. Apple's own development tool for building apps doesn't run on their most powerful tablet. Final Cut and Logic are on the iPad now, but the missing features that the Mac versions have. The file system is still absolutely crippled compared to Finder. I shot about 300 photos of my boys' baseball games last week, airdropped them to my iPad beautifully, edited the best ones in Lightroom, and had them shared with the team parents in like a half hour. Then I tried to batch rename those files into organized folders, and I wanted to throw it across the room. Walked over to my Mac, 5 minutes, and it was done. We're talking about just renaming files here. It shouldn't require a second device. External monitor support technically works now. No clamshell mode, and the scaling is weird. You can't have widgets on the external display. There are keyboard shortcuts that don't exist yet. The hardware can absolutely do all of this. Apple just won't let it. And look, obviously I understand the business logic. Like I said, the Mac made Apple $8-ish billion last quarter. If the iPad did everything the Mac does, why would anybody buy a MacBook Air? An 11-inch iPad Air with the Magic Keyboard is like $900. A MacBook Air is about $1,100. Apple really needs you to buy both. The iPad being an almost but not quite laptop isn't a bug. I think it's a business model. And I know I'm sitting here telling you all this while owning both, so obviously it's working on me too. iPad OS 26 is the most interesting proof of this. Apple shipped true windowing, resizable apps, and a menu bar, expose, background task support, can actually resize a Safari window and drop notes window next to it and have them stay where you put them. You can start exporting a video and keep working while it renders, which was impossible before. The windowing system even remembers your layout and apps reopen exactly where you left them, and it's good. I really like iPad OS 26. When I have my Magic Keyboard attached and I'm in the windowing mode, it's the closest an iPad has ever felt to my Mac. But then you try to do something like manage files across 2 apps with drag and drop, and it fights you. It looks like a desktop OS until you actually try to use it like one, and it doesn't work. Not to say it can't work as a laptop. I know a lot of you guys use it as one, but you do have to change how you do things to get it to work. If you're someone who actually uses the iPad with an Apple Pencil, writing, drawing, sketching, I'll tell you about this video sponsor, Paperlike. So Paperlike 3 is a screen protector, but it's not just protecting your screen. It's actually like changing how the surface of your iPad feels. Writing on glass with the Apple Pencil has always been a little slick, a little slippery. Paperlike adds this micro texture, they call it nanodots, that gives you the resistance that your hand expects from like actual paper. That means you have more control, more precision, and your screen still looks incredible. If you've been curious about the nano texture display on the iPad Pros, the really high-end ones, but don't want to pay that premium, this gives you a really similar feel for a fraction of the cost. The other thing I appreciate is how easy they are to put on. They have this butterfly application system where the iPad actually kind of walks you through the install on screen step by step. There's a tool that handles alignment and dust, and you get 2 protectors in every pack. It's the least stressful screen protector that I have ever installed. It's also ultra thin, under 1/10 of a millimeter, so your pencil still works exactly the way the Apple Pencil was designed to. And they also back everything with a 100-day money-back guarantee. Paperlike is awesome. It is on all of my iPads. Use it when you need it. If you want to take it off and put another one on, you have that option. You get a lot of flexibility. I think Paperlike has nailed it, and they're a leader in this space for a reason. If you want to check them out, links in the description. But there's other problems too. The hardware shipped buggy. iPadOS 26 wasn't great when it launched. There was lag too, and lag on M5 hardware seems absurd. I've had Apple Pencil disconnect randomly a bunch, and they've been patching all this through 26.1, 26.2, 26.3, and eventually 26.4. It's in a way better place now, but the pattern is clear. Apple gives you just enough, I think, to keep you excited, and then stop short of the features that would actually let you ditch your Mac. I think this is a departure from the Steve Jobs era, where he kind of famously said, if we're gonna cannibalize anybody, it might as well be ourselves. And having said all of those things, all the crippling things, I still think you should buy an iPad. And I know I just spent a few minutes telling you Apple's playing you, and now I'm telling you to buy their stuff. Welcome to the world of being an Apple customer. The iPad Pro is still the best creative tool you can buy if you need a stylus. The M5 OLED 120Hz ProMotion, Apple Pencil Pro for drawing, painting, photo retouching, editing video, nothing comes close to that. The 11-inch starts at about $1,000, 13-inch about $1,300, and Apple refreshed them in October. Next update, probably just gonna be a processor thing in 27. Buy it now if you need it. But this is where Apple's game is most obvious. Add the Magic Keyboard, an 11-inch setup is now $1,300. MacBook Air starts at about $1,100 and does more. You're paying laptop money for a device that Apple won't give laptop capabilities, and most people end up buying a laptop anyway. Ask me how I know. The iPad Air is the same story at a lower price point. Same accessories, basically, same basic design as a Pro. 11-inch Air at the keyboard is $900. M3 handles everything most people need. It's generally the iPad I recommend for most people. There's also an event coming up on March 4th. New iPads are expected around the same time too, so if you're watching this after March 4th, there might be new iPad Airs available. But the M4 iPad Air should be the same price with a faster chip, and if you're not in a rush, weeks away, probably wait. But even the Air hits the same ceiling. The moment you need real file management or pro software that Apple won't bring to iPadOS, you're back to your Mac. iPad mini is about $500 and exists in its own universe, where none of this applies because nobody's trying to use an iPad mini as a laptop. My wife has one. She loves it. She uses it to watch Instagram. Rumors say OLED is coming to that eventually if you need one now. The current one is still great. The base iPad is about $350. It's where Apple's strategy actually, it gets like a little bit insulting. Nate, my oldest, uses it for school. Zachary uses one for homework. Handles everything kids and students need. But the current model has the A16 chip in it. Again, might be different by the time you watch this. It means it can't run Apple Intelligence. Apple's own flagship AI platform doesn't work on their own current entry-level product. I told you a brand new iPad in 2026 that was already locked out of the features they're building everything around. That's kind of cold. The new version of the A19 chip expected around the same time frame, same price, 50% faster, and it should support Apple Intelligence. So don't buy the current base iPad. Again, weeks away from, I think, a dramatically better one for the same money. And look, 3 months ago, I said the iPad had finally found its identity. It's at its best when you stop fighting it and just let it be what it is. And I really still believe that. I use my iPad every single day. Couch and bed at night for emails and YouTube and social media, flights because it's lighter and the battery lasts forever, editing photos from my kids' games and my daughter's dance recitals. My wife uses hers constantly. The iPad's great at being that tweener device. But that's actually the problem too. Apple made sure that's all it'll ever be. The hardware can clearly do more, engineering is there, but keeping the iPad in the middle lane sells more Macs. And more iPads, because every year they give you just enough to think that maybe this is the year it can finally replace your laptop, and it never is. And I spent over $2,400 proving that to myself, and I bet a lot of you have a similar story. So next time you see an Apple ad somewhere with somebody using an iPad Pro like a computer, just remember, Apple knows exactly what a computer is. They'll happily sell you one for $1,100. They just make a lot more money making sure you buy both.